Yeah.
Hey guys, TYT Sports Rotowire Fantasy Football Draft Edition. Expert Chris Liss from Rotowire.com, Ben Mankewicz, talking 10 overvalued players for where you have to take them. You would rather just cross them off your list than deal with them.
Yeah, do not draft these guys where they're going.
No, let's take your formulation. Just do not draft these guys, no matter what.
Well, these are guys that I specifically, when I'm drafting and I'm trying to decide between what a running back or Manning, and then somebody takes Manning before me, and I'm, okay, I don't even have to worry about that now.
Relief, right?
Yes.
Why do you feel relieved? Because you know it's a mistake to do it. You do
so
not
someone
get
else does it
last
for
year's
you.
stats. That is not what we're paying for. So look, regression to the mean, okay? He had the all-time greatest fantasy quarterback season
Peyton
ever.
Manning, and he's on your list, so yeah, start with Manning.
You just don't pay for that. When he had 49 touchdowns in 2004, the next year he threw 28. I mean, I have him projected for 40. That's great, but that's, given how deep quarterback is, that to me is a second or third round pick.
If you're in a league with a bunch of guys who are smart, and then it's the second round, and Breeze is already gone, and maybe Rodgers is gone, and then you're in the second round and you've picked an elite running back, then okay. Then you're like, oh,
sure,
right, well, I'll take Peyton Manning. Right.
But where did Manning...
But he's Peyton Manning. He's not going to slip.
Yeah, don't draft Manning unless someone puts a gun to your head and says you must draft Peyton Manning, which is basically what that situation is.
Right, and I had a friend email me saying, am I insane to take Peyton Manning with the first pick overall, not a 2 QB league? And I wrote back, yes, you are absolutely insane to take him with the #1 pick overall.
Right.
It just makes no sense to me.
It's about replacement value, okay? The replacement value of quarterback is very high. It's like, a guy who throws for 30 touchdowns and 300 yards, okay? That's the baseline. So Manning's only valuable, this is sort of the value-based drafting, which has flaws in it, by the way, but just the basics of it, is a player's only valuable to the extent he exceeds the baseline player at his position. And so if the baseline player at your position is 30 and 4,300, I mean, Manning would have to go 55 and 5,500 again, and it's just not likely to happen. It could happen. It's just very unlikely, and you shouldn't pay for it.
Another quarterback on your list, Matt Stafford.
He's like the #4 guy, and people think, okay, the big three off the board, I'm going Stafford in the 4th or 5th round. He's got this new Saints offense is coming in. Joe Lombardi, the quarterback coach of the Saints, is coming in or whatever. Look, Matt Stafford is not Drew Brees. He does not go through his progressions. There's no evidence that he's ever been able to develop another receiver besides Calvin Johnson. He's just a big-arm guy who can chuck it down the field, and if Calvin's there, great. I don't see how this is good. Scott Linehan, who's leaving, had Matt Stafford throw the most attempts in history 3 years ago, the 4th most in history 2 years ago, and like the 17th most last year. It is not going to get better for him. Do not boost him up because the Saints offense is coming to town. It's not going to be any better.
We know what they're going to do. We know what Jim Caldwell's going to do. First of all, I think Jim Caldwell factors into that. I thought Jim Schwartz one of the worst coaches in the NFL. Right. And they may have replaced him with another of the worst coaches in the NFL. It was a very puzzling decision. You know he's going to throw less. He's definitely going to, at a bare minimum, he's going to throw 50 fewer passes. And they have 2 really nice running backs. Like I think they also realized that throwing the ball 48 times a game with a guy who doesn't consistently make great decisions when he's making those throws is not a way you go 11-5 and go to the playoffs. They're going to throw less, therefore he's going to be a less effective player.
Last quarterback, I think, on your 10-person list here, Cutler.
Okay, Cutler's kind of a good pick if you get him where you got him, like the 12th round. But I have seen him in the NFFC ADP. He's 10th. And
overall,
I just don't buy it.
Although those are elite guys drafting, right?
Yeah, that doesn't doesn't mean we follow them no matter what. But yes, those guys do know what they're doing for the most part.
I think that you're in an offense there in Chicago where all they do is throw the ball. Like even when Matt Forte, one of the things that makes Matt Forte elite is not that he carries the ball 25 times, that he carries the ball 18 times and he catches 9 passes. I think Cutler. And even last year, before he got hurt, was on pace for an above baseline season. Like this is a guy, you mentioned 30 touchdowns and 4,300 yards. It's very hard to believe that Jay Cutler doesn't hit that if he stays healthy. I'm trying to eliminate the fact that obviously as a human being and a member of the human race, I hate him.
I can't stand Jay Cutler.
Right, and I don't really want to root for him. But that said, I think I would be very comfortable with Jay Cutler.
Yeah, well, I'm in the 12th round of 16 rounds, and there's Jay Cutler just staring me in the face, and I had to take him.
I'm not going to argue with that. I'm saying he's going 7th round in these leagues, okay? And I don't see it because people say, well, how can you not have him in the top 10? He's got, Alshon Jeffrey, Brandon Marshall. Those are top 10 receivers. He's got both of them, maybe the best pass-catching running back.
Right.
How could he not be top 10? Just do the math, right? And the math is they don't throw to anybody else, right? Drew Brees doesn't have 2 top 10 10 wide receivers, but he throws to 50 different guys. If you don't ever throw to the third receiver, you don't ever throw to the backup tight end, you don't throw to any other running back, right? Then obviously all the production's concentrated in 3 or 4 players. That's great for those players. That doesn't necessarily make your quarterback more valuable just because you concentrate so much of the production. Look at his yards per attempt. In last year's great offense, with all the great weapons, it was like 7.5-ish. That's just a little bit above league average. That means he needs to get a ton of attempts to throw for a ton of yards, and he's injury prone. On the plus side, he does run a little bit more than the Mannings
more than
and the
you
Bradys.
think he does. Yeah. I would not. The only reason I would not take Jay Cutler is if you apply a standard that I think is a solid standard. It's not very scientific.
Right.
He's a fuck up, and don't put your team in the hands of a fuck up.
All right. Well, let's go through the rest of your list here pretty quickly. Cooks.
Very trendy, very dynamic, looks amazing this preseason, but he's a little guy who catches short passes. I mean, he's going to score 6, 5 touchdowns. Yeah, he could be Darren Sproles. In PPR, I could see it. Non-PPR, forget it.
Garcon
got like 181 targets last year. They had nobody else. Now Jordan Reed is back. Deshaun Jackson is playing. They signed Andre Roberts. I think he's
Pierre Garcon led the league in receptions last year.
And targets, right?
Yeah.
And I just think that he's going to get, instead of 180, he's going to get 140. And he'll still be good. He'll still catch 85 balls for 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns, but he's not going to be the monster he was last year.
Why are you down on Marshawn Lynch there in Seattle?
Last year, I think he had something like 360 carries. Or last few years, he's averaged a lot of carries when you include the playoffs, which count, even though people don't seem to count them. And he's got 2 backups, and he's going to walk after this year probably. So, they need to get those guys in. He's going to be solid. Doesn't catch a lot of passes, but I just think this is an aging back with a lot of mileage, with a physical style, with 2 backups they need to audition for the future. And I just don't want to pay that second round price.
Oh, second round, because he's
non-PPR late second round. I'll take him, but I think he goes earlier.
All right, and then we're looking at Welker, which we kind of already talked about.
We talked about him. Yeah.
Julian Edelman.
Julian Edelman only got the targets and receptions he got out of desperation. Okay, everybody was hurt. That's not going to be the case this year. The Patriots are smart. They know a 7-yard pass is not a way to matriculate down the field. They know they need to make some big plays. They need to get Gronk a 15-yard catch.
Great Hank Stram reference there. Matriculating down the field.
I don't know why. And it just came into my head. And then Vereen was hurt last year. Everybody was hurt last year. It's not going to be. A lot of them will get hurt again, but it's not going to be that bad.
And where does your you don't like little white receivers factor in there?
I like them when it's Wes Welker in his peak, when Brady's targeting him. I don't like it when it's a guy who's sort of an afterthought who just filled the role because he was there.
Got it. Jordan Cameron and Reggie Wayne round out your list here.
Cameron, it's like he's the 4th tight end on most boards, so people say, it's the next tight end, and I don't love him in the receivers. Don't take him. There's no big difference between him and Greg Olsen and Dennis Pitta and Jason Witten and Zach Ertz and any of these guys. Don't reach for a tight end once the big 3 are on
I like
the board.
him because his name could just as easily be Cameron Jordan.
No, if he gets tackled by Cameron Jordan, he might cease to exist.
That's right, yeah.
And then Reggie Wayne, did you just say?
Yeah, I don't like these little guys with no speed anymore.
Not that little, but
he's little and old and slow.
And coming back from an injury. I love Reggie Wayne because of what he feels, his connection to the Colts. Like, it's a rare thing, but that's separate from fantasy.
And you should draft Derek Jeter in baseball this year, too, as I did.
That's different.
All right, this is going to be fun.
Let me just say my 5.
I'm sorry.
I've said them in another
I didn't know that you did.
But under no circumstances, Tony Romo, Steven Jackson, Trent Richardson, Wes Welker, Arian Foster. 2 of them for back injuries, 2 of them for age and other injuries, and Trent Richardson just because he clearly should have another job.
Can we get a replay of the Trent Richardson?
Huh? What job would that be?
I mean, he should be like on a forklift or a lawyer. I don't know, but not an NFL player.
Okay, yeah.
All right, thanks, guys. Fun. Rotowire and TYT.